What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So this video today, we're going to be going over some stuff that I've done in the past. You guys have seen some videos on this channel. We're going to be vinyl wrapping the chrome trim on my car in gloss black. You guys have seen me do the taillight tint on here, as well as I've also done vinyl wrapping on the trim inside the car before. I didn't like how that turned out, so you guys can look back on my channel. I actually have a video where I went over painting that trim. I've been happy with the taillight tint. It came out well. It still looks good on the car. I don't have any issues with it peeling back or doing anything crazy. I'm going to go over how to do this vinyl wrap on this trim. You guys can use this video as either a how-to or a what not to do, just depending on how you view things. If you guys have done vinyl wrapping before and have done a better job, then completely disregard this video. If you guys are trying to do it for the first time or looking into doing it for yourself, this might be a video that kind of gives you an idea of how difficult it may be / what not to do. The reason why I say that is because we're going to go over doing the driver's side. I've actually already done the passenger side of my car, and from a distance, looking at it here, it doesn't look all that bad. But when you start getting close up, you notice, little spots here and there where it's pulled back. Like this was actually the first door that I did, and I didn't wrap all the way in on the back sides of this trim here on either end because I cut it too short. Rookie mistake. I did this door second. I ended up having to take the door mirror off. You don't have to, but this chrome trim actually goes up underneath the door mirror here a little bit, and I wanted to make sure that I was getting far enough up there so that when I cut it, I didn't have any pullback. So I did this one second, and then I believe I did this one third. Rookie mistake here, a miscut. I'm probably gonna end up having to end up redoing this one. I'll probably end up redoing that one as well, just because it's not tucked all the way back in there. And then after doing all three bottoms, which to me are the easier ones because they're straight and don't do anything weird other than, having to tuck around the ends of them, I attempted to do the top one. So my issue with the top one is this chrome trim all the way from up here in front at the front edge of the door all the way back to here is all one piece. There's a tiny seam here between the front half and the back half that you can see, but it's not a crazy large gap. Like, it's just barely large enough to fit like X-Acto knife blade through. And then this piece of trim is all one piece all the way down to here. So I attempted to wrap from all the way in the front to all the way in the back here in one piece. That did not work out for me because I got this whole front half done, and then once I got to this corner here, I had a hard time trying to make the vinyl round this corner. I got it to round this corner, but then when I got down here to the bottom, trying to make the vinyl trim tuck into this area here where the seal sits, because of how deep this is, it's not just flat here. There's a curve this way, and then the trim actually goes in towards the car as well. So you're dealing with two curves at one time. And I already had vinyl trim that had made this corner up here as well. So it wouldn't do what I wanted it to do, and by the time I got all the way back here, it screwed up. I had to rip the whole piece off and start over again, and I decided at that point that I was going to try to do it in two pieces. So I did this front half up here all the way to here. It went really well. It's all tucked in there. I cut it off. It's clean. There's no pullback on anything. But here, I cut in the crease between the front piece of trim and the back piece of trim, and for some strange reason, the vinyl has pulled back at that cut. Only this piece has. This piece has not. So I don't know what happened. I didn't stretch this vinyl in order to get it to that seam, so I don't know why it pulled back. It shouldn't have. I'm probably in the future going to end up rewrapping this one, and I'm going to attempt something a little different on the other side to hopefully keep this from happening again. So then after getting this piece done, cut, I moved on to the back half, and I attempted to wrap this back half all the way from that seam there to down here in one piece. Again, I got down here and I couldn't get the vinyl to do what I wanted it to do to make the corner and stuff like that. So got in a bunch and in a bind and in a pinch in a bad spot, and I ripped it off and started over again. And I decided at that point in time that I was going to seam it, and I was going to try to make a clean seam that kind of lined up with the body line. And then when I did the other side, I was going to make the same seam so that it was even though there shouldn't be a seam on this piece of trim. I was going to make a seam, and if it was the same on both sides, it wouldn't stand out or be crazy if you saw it. So I cut it. I got that piece to lay good. I got this piece to lay good. It's laid in here very well. It's cut. There's a little bit of chrome that you can see back there if you're looking for it, but it's laid in there very well, okay? I cut it here, and again, same thing happened. I cut this here with knifeless tape. I actually laid the tape across here, laid my vinyl over it, cut my vinyl on either side, pulled my knifeless tape through and cut this. And when I initially laid this back down, because the knifeless tape is so thin, these two pieces were touching. I was like, okay, cool. Worked out the way I wanted it to. After the car's been outside for a couple weeks, along with that piece pulling back, this one pulled back as well. So I don't know what I did wrong. I don't know what to do to stop this from happening. I don't know if either this piece was stretched or that piece was stretched. I don't know. If you do know, please comment down below in this video. I would like to know what I did wrong. I'm going to attempt to do things differently on this side, and I'm going to show you guys whether or not that worked out. But let's get to doing this side. All right, so a couple tips I'm going to give you guys. If you're doing this on your own car, whether it be a BMW like this or whatever else you might own that you're doing this on, clean your surface. Make sure it's clean, and everything around it, above, below, where you're wrapping. Preferably the whole car. Wash it beforehand. I washed this car. It sat outside my driveway for a day or two, and then I pulled it in here, so it had some dust from sitting in the driveway for a couple days. I wiped the area around where I'm working down, just so that it doesn't get up underneath what you're doing and cause dirt and debris and stuff like that to be underneath the wrap. After you wash the car, the trim that you're going to wrap, you want to make sure that it's clean, and then after you clean it, to clean it with some isopropyl alcohol. That will remove any residue from sap or previous sticky substances such as stickers, anything like that. Get it off of there so that the vinyl that you're putting on can adhere as good as it possibly can. Second note is tape. Tape off the body, the front, or the back, the front, above and below the piece of trim you're taping off. You don't have to worry about the glass. You don't have to worry about the rubber seals either. The only reason why I tell you to do this is because you're going to be cutting with an X-Acto knife or, whatever you're using, X-Acto knife, cutting blade for, doing vinyl wrap, anything like that. And you don't want to accidentally cut paint or trim or anything like that. So tape off the area around where you're working so that you don't accidentally cut into your paint. And also, when you tape off on either side of the piece you're wrapping, the vinyl itself does not stick very well to painter's tape. So it allows you the ability to pull back up on the vinyl and readjust things without having to fight it off of like the paint surface or the glass surface. You can tape off the glass if you want, but the glass is easy enough to pull off of. But the paint, it gives you this area here to be able to tuck in your vinyl and all that stuff, and there's no tension because the vinyl is not physically sticking to the paint next to where you're wrapping. Also, as far as tools go, a regular squeegee, I don't have it on me, it's somewhere behind me. An X-Acto knife or something, one of those break-off style blades for cutting, and then one of these guys. Now this, I purchased in a kit that had squeegee, X-Acto knife, stuff like that from Amazon. I will post a link to that in the description. This is crucial to doing things like that because it allows you to tuck the vinyl up underneath these pieces of trim as tight as possible, so that you don't have pullback or anything like that. So this, although not necessary, helps you out a lot in the kit that I bought that had this in it, along with some other things that I've been using for this job and you can use for other things. It was cheap enough that it's not a big deal. So like I said, clean, tape off, and make sure you have good tools or the proper tools for doing this. So I'm gonna get started doing this, this piece of trim here, and then I'm gonna walk you guys through just the little ins and outs of getting this wrapped. All right, so when you guys are starting to do this, you can start at either end of this trim. I'm going to start at this end just so I can show you guys. You're going to take your vinyl, you're going to kind of center it up over top of the piece that you're trying to wrap. Make sure you give yourself a little extra behind the piece and a little extra on the other end when you're cutting things so that you have the ability to tuck in behind the piece that you're wrapping. And then what you're going to do is you're going to stick this in place down here. So you get it to stay. And you're going to work your way down your piece, pulling your backing paper off as you go. You're just going to kind of lay it along the face, the most, broad face or the flattest face that you can get to. Not pulling on anything, not putting any tension in the film that you don't want to, because if you put any tension in anything, it's going to come back as pullback like you guys saw on the other side of my car. I think that's where a lot of my problems came from, is I was pulling on things too much. I don't really know if that's the case, but I think that's what happened. So learn from my mistakes. So we got to the other end, it's all pressed down on this face. So I did it on the face facing towards me. You can do it on the face on the top, but the face on the top is smaller than the face facing towards you. You want to try to get the piece as stuck on there as you can before you start trying to tuck and do other things. So you're then going to come back after you've got on that face and work on like rolling it over the edge of this trim while making sure that you don't have any air or anything like that trapped underneath it. So you're just going to kind of make sure that it's not stuck to the window. Roll the vinyl in this way so that you're rolling any bubbles that might be in the film out the back side of it. This film actually has air release in it that's supposed to help with getting any air bubbles that might be trapped underneath things out. So you want to try to work bubbles towards the edge of the film no matter where you're wrapping at, whether it's this piece of trim or any place else on your car. You want to try to work the bubbles towards the edge of the film if you have any, because the edge of the film is, there's channels in the film that will help the air get out. This is, sorry, I do want to tell you guys, this is Vvivid gloss black. This actually has a clear cap over it as well to keep you from scratching the film up while you're laying it down. I'll put a link in the description as well for this film. Pretty much all films have, as far as I know, all films have a air release channels on the back of it to help with getting the air out if there's a bubble somewhere in it. But just the way that system's set up to work is you have to work the bubble towards the edge. It won't come out. It generally won't come out if it's stuck in the middle. Sometimes if it's small enough, you can press on it enough and it'll work its way through all the air channels that where things haven't settled down all the way towards the edge without you having to do anything crazy like pulling the vinyl back up. But a lot of times if it's stuck in the dead middle and everything's glued down around it, it's going to end up getting stuck there in the middle and won't come out. So we've got our film now laid across the front edge of this and the top edge of it. You want to make sure that your vinyl is not stuck to your window and is laying down on top of this chrome trim here as tightly as it can be, because what's going to happen is if it has any kind of like weird, like instead of, so you're looking at the chrome, at the trim this way, okay, say it's like a 90, you want the vinyl to lay like this and then like this. If it's bridging the gap from this corner to the window, there's going to be air bubbles stuck underneath the film there. And if there's air bubbles stuck underneath the film there, it's not going to adhere properly when you're all done. And it also, if it's bridging that gap like that between the edge of the, where it rolls over and the window, when you go to cut, you're not going to be able to cut straight because you're going to be trying to cut on like a bubble in the film. So it's going to screw up cutting straight. That's what happened on the other side on the back window, is it wasn't laying down on top of the chrome trim properly. And as I was cutting, it was kind of like walking the blade because there was not a flat surface for the blade to go through. It was all like bubbled up. So learn from my mistake. Make sure that your stuff is laid down flat and isn't bridging a gap between a piece of trim and like the glass or a piece of trim in the body. You got to make sure that it's laying flat as it can be so that you get a good cut when you go to start trimming things. So I'm going to get this all worked in everywhere, and then I'm going to go over getting everything cut. All right, guys, so I didn't really go over too much of doing the vinyl wrapping on the other side of this car. The reason being is I did it and I recorded myself, but it's not a good explanation. I'm not an expert. I don't want you guys to take this as the rule of thumb of what to do. The only thing I can show you is what I did and what the outcome was. So I told you guys on the other side of the car I had some issues. Like in the beginning of the video, I told you that I had some issues with the vinyl pulling back. So here at this seam, this is actually a seam in the two pieces of chrome trim on the car. This front half of the car that goes towards the front pulled back. I don't know why. It wasn't stretched to get to that point. It was just laid flat across here, and I cut it in the seam. I don't know why it pulled back. This piece I did no differently. Ran it to here. I told you guys I had knifeless tape this, and this piece of vinyl actually pulled back from where the knifeless tape had been, but it didn't pull back here. I don't know why it did that. Like I said, I don't know what I did wrong. I don't feel like I did anything wrong, but regardless. And then on this side, I changed things up a little bit, but I ended up still having the same problem where I ran this top piece to here, cut it at the seam in these two pieces of chrome trim, and then it still pulled back after the car sat outside for a couple days. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong at this piece. I don't know if it's because I'm not wrapping it over the edge, but that doesn't make sense to me from what I understand, because I did this piece, cut it to the end, and it was flush at the end and everything was all good. And then I wrapped this piece over to here. Mind you, I wrapped this piece down here first because it was the most difficult part and I didn't want to have to pull this back up. So I wrapped this piece first, got it all good to where I was happy with it, and then came back and did this piece. And I overlapped this piece here on my body line seam that I tried to create on the other side. And it did not pull back here. It is actually up against the edge of the trim and flush and not pulled back. So I don't know why this piece didn't pull back, but this piece did, because neither one of them had any kind of tension. I don't know what I did wrong. These doors all came out really good. I'm happy with them. If you get real close to them, you can see some mistakes here and there. But from 5 feet away, you're not going to notice anything. Like I said, I don't want you guys to take this as like a how-to on how to do this. Maybe learn from the mistakes that I made and go from there. But I just want you to know what things I ran into and what issues I had. Please let me know if you have do this for a living or have done this before and gotten better outcomes than me. Please let me know in the comments what I might be doing wrong that I could fix to make this better in the future. I would like to know. I want to learn how to do this stuff. I'm constantly want to learn and grow myself as a person, so I'm open to learning. I'm open to criticism, so please let me know. Other than that, I'm happy with it. I'm probably going to redo a couple of these pieces of vinyl, overlap them a little bit. I might overlap that piece on both sides that pulled back. Actually, what I might end up doing is leaving the front half on both sides, since it's such a long piece of vinyl, and just redoing this piece on both sides and overlapping on both sides so there's no seam. Like I said, it looks worse this way where it's pulled back versus if you overlap it, because if you overlap it, yes, there's a seam there where the two pieces of vinyl overlap, but unless you're the person that did it, you don't really know that that's not a feature of that trim. So I'd rather it overlap than have a pullback issue. If you guys have any suggestions for me or have any questions about any of this, please comment on the video. I would appreciate if you guys subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys later.